Might be a bit of a delay. Hello, testing because of the rain. Hello and welcome back to Everton here at the View from the Bullens studio. A few technical issues, a bit like Bramley-Moore Docks, a few leaks, a few nuts and bolts, as Sean Dyche like to say. Apologies about that. Obviously, we have a bit of a power cut with the rain issues, but we are back. We are live. If you don't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, like the video. We always appreciate you watching us here at A View from the Bullens. If you could subscribe, that'd be brilliant. Leave your comments in the comments section, and we will get on to as many comments and questions as possible throughout the episode. Joined by the Bobble, Steve Kelly, Paul Draper for this one, which has been a positive week for Everton. The past 7 days have been very positive. Everton get their first win under the belt. The weekends feel so much better when Everton come through and get 3 points, don't they? Bobble, I know you've had your post-match reaction straight away, but how good is it to come out the weekend with 3 points?
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's always nice to start a Monday on the back of 3 points. It's been a long time coming. We've had to be very, very patient, haven't we? We've had to, been put through the mill a little bit. We've even been put through the mill this morning with a power cut. I don't know who we're going to blame today, Ben. Who are we blaming on that one? Draper. Paul, yeah, we'll blame Paul on that one.
I'll take the blame.
But yeah, look, it's really, really nice to be heading into a new week on the back of 3 points. And it's a huge 3 points. And I know ultimately it's only one game, and Sean Dyche and the players shouldn't be let off the hook. One game doesn't make a sum, as they say, but it is a very, very big result for us. There is no doubt in that. Crystal Palace were another team coming to Goodison, on the back of no wins. They were just as desperate as us, really. And I've been speaking to Ed Aarons, who's obviously reports on Crystal Palace a little bit down in London, and he says, it's pretty desperate right now for Crystal Palace. They were coming, they'd earmarked this game as a game where they could get potential points. And who can blame them? Bournemouth came here and scored 3. We haven't started the season particularly well. But look, it's not how about you. It's not how well you perform to get the 3 points. Sometimes it's just about getting the 3 points, and I think that's what it was on Saturday. As I said on the initial reaction, I thought the first half was pretty poor, and I think I'm being quite light there. I think it was one of the poorest first halves of football you'll see in an Everton team at Goodison Park before it closes. I thought Sean Dyche's systems were all over the place once again. I think the gaps between the back four and the midfield were all over the place. The midfield pivot of of Mangala and Doucouré simply was not working. They were getting outfought, outworked, and completely dominated by the likes of Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace's team, and Eze and Mateta were picking up space. I was really, really, really worried at half-time. I think if Crystal Palace would have had maybe a little bit more confidence and a little bit more of cutting edge, they'd have gone in at 2 or 3-0. I think Tarkowski was incredibly lucky to get away with a penalty. Normally in the modern day game, that's a penalty now. Yes, he does touch the ball, but he also takes the man. And in today's game, whether you like it or not, it's normally deemed as careless, reckless, out of control. You're over-aggressive, however you want to call it. Normally, you get penalties for that, especially with VAR. I think if the referee would have given it, I don't think VAR would have overturned it. No. But look, Everton found a way. I was speaking to someone at half-time and I said, we just need a little bit of magic. And I actually said Ndiaye, I said, we need a little bit of magic from Ndiaye, but a bit of magic from anywhere, and that's what we got. It's a cracking goal by Dwight McNeil. It's an absolute worldie, as people say. As soon as it leaves his foot, it's back of the net. It's a fantastic finish. And then I thought Crystal Palace got involved in something that you probably shouldn't get involved in when you come to Goodison as an opposition, and that is you get embroiled and you get lost in the atmosphere for 10-15, and it becomes a little bit of a game of ping pong. Everton are throwing the ball in. You're starting to get a bit worked up. You look like rabbit in headlights. And that's what Crystal Palace looked for that 10-15 minute period. And it just shows how vulnerable they were. Just like Everton against Bournemouth, you were seeing the same vulnerability in both teams for different reasons. And Everton obviously managed to get a second. And, as much as we criticise Sean Dyche and as much as we will criticise him and say how bad the first half was, look, his second half substitution, bringing on Harrison, was massive. It completely changed the game. And Jack Harrison put in a really, really poor cameo down at Leicester the week before. But he was excellent when he came on. And you've got to call a spade sometimes, as we always say. Be fair. And he was excellent. And what he did do is he pinned Tyreek Mitchell back into his position. Because in the first half, Mitchell was getting far too much joy down our right-hand side. And they were double up on Ashley Young quite a lot. And Lindstrom just simply wasn't working hard enough. And that's what it comes down to. His application was really, really poor. Really poor. Yeah, he wasn't doing the basics. He wasn't doing the basics, and he was being told by the gaffer. He was being told by the senior pros in Pickford and Tarkowski. They were calling him out a little bit at times in the first half. And what you do get from Jack Harrison, you might lack that little bit of quality in the final third that Lindstrom has, but he's better defensively, and he'll put the team first a little bit. And Lindstrom's got to learn that very, very quickly, or else you won't feature for Sean Dyche. And Harrison, like I say, he changed the game completely. He gave us a bit more of a tenacity up top. He gave us a bit of work rate up top. Again, he pinned Tyreek Mitchell back. His delivery for the second goal is a peach. It's a fantastic ball in with his weak foot. But I want to just talk about someone. I know Jared returned, which was huge, but I want to talk about someone who comes under a lot of scrutiny at Everton. And sometimes I think he can sometimes be used as a bit of a scapegoat, if I'm honest. And that is Ashley Young. 39 years old. What a pro. Whether you like him or not, what a pro. He's 39 and he's still playing in the Premier League. It is tremendous. And again, what a role model he is to young lads, young pros coming through. That if you look after yourself and that you maintain your fitness and you eat the right things and you put football first, you can still be playing right, to near 40. And I actually think he was very good. I thought he handled Eze very well. I thought second half he was tremendous. I thought he was very, very good. I'll be honest, he was better than Mikalenko.
Has been all season.
Yeah, he was better than Mikalenko. And again, I think it's easy to have scapegoats sometimes. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Ashley Young shouldn't be playing week in, week out at Everton. He shouldn't, and he'd admit that. He'd hold his hands up. He shouldn't. But he's being asked to do a job at the moment. And I think he was pretty good down at Leicester. I think he was pretty good. Bearing in mind, some players can't train a couple of days after a game. Seamus Coleman plays at 90. He then can't train for a few days. Ashley Young, 39, and he's doing it. And again, I thought he was excellent against Crystal Palace. People may criticise him in the first half, some of his balls up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's what they're coached to do. Pickford to Tarkowski, out to Young. Young hits the channel and hits down that right-hand channel for Dominic Calvert-Lewin to run onto. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, we've got a cracking pro there, and it's very, very easy to hammer him and critique him when we're not playing well. But when he does play well, also applaud him. Yeah. And I thought he was very, very good, very good. And I think Everton needed that little bit of experience on Saturday to guide us through the game. I know Jared being back was huge, but you also need some of your older heads to try and take responsibility. And I thought that was exactly what Ashley Young done. And if you notice, at 1-0, he made a goal-saving clearance and he bought a foul from it as well in the first half. Yeah. And he was one of the only players that probably even think of clearing it and then hitting the deck and buying yourself a fight and get touched. But he's bought as a foul and he's relieved a bit of the pressure. Things like that go unnoticed with Ashley Young and senior pros, and it's huge. And he kept it at 1-0 when it could have easily been 2. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of single him out a little bit again, because I thought he was really, really good. So massive fair play to Ashley Young. But above all else, Ben, it was all about getting 3 points, not the performance. And by hook or by crook, they did that. But there is still a hell of a lot of work to be done. Hell of a lot of work.
Yeah, massively. Paul, I'll bring you in there now. Obviously, Branthwaite was back. Mikalenko was back from illness. Game of 2 halves, as the Bobble said. The first half, for me, was arguably the worst I've ever seen an Everton side under Sean Dyche. It was that bad in a half-time. Even I was starting to think, oh, God, Everton needs to turn this round. What did you make of the whole 90 minutes? Were you happy this week with Sean Dyche's in-game management? It's been criticised quite heavily over recent weeks. Made the sub at half-time. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I tweeted this straight after the game. I think he's come under a lot of criticism and deserved last few weeks for his substitutions. Saturday, he won the game with his substitutions, the same as at Bournemouth. A lot of people will argue he lost the game with his subs. The weekend that Saturday against Crystal Palace, he won the game with his subs. I thought Lindstrom was coming off the back of a good performance at Leicester and okay-ish at home to Southampton and deserved to start. And first half, it's one of the worst performances you'll see from an Everton player. He was just not at the races at all. His application weren't there. His touch was awful. There was one where he lost the ball towards the end of the first half and he just kind of threw his arms in the air and turned round. You can't be doing that. I think he was weak. Couldn't keep hold of the ball. His passing wasn't there. And again, he weren't tracking back. So as Boy rightly point out, Ashley Young was getting doubled up on all the time. But the manager made the decision at half time. I remember I texted a few years and I said, if that's the other way around, though, he doesn't make that change. I don't think he would have made that change. If Harrison's having that performance, I don't think he'd have brought Lindstrom on at half time. But credit to the manager, the subs were spot on. Harrison, instant impact. I know Bobo touched on the cross for the second goal. The touch for it. The way he brought it down and kind of set himself up for the cross is unbelievable. And he was just excellent. He chased every single ball. On the ball, his quality was much, much better. And it's just mad how football is. You can go from one of the worst cameos off the bench in recent Everton time to one of the best cameos off the bench in recent time within the space of 7 days. I think it was just night and day. Him at Leicester and him at home the other day against Crystal Palace. Credit to the lad, because he came under a lot of criticism too. A lot of kind of hard truths told to him, and probably deserved it. He weren't good enough at Leicester, and obviously he had been carrying that illness. He hadn't trained really all week, but he was excellent. And Dyche knew when to make changes in midfield. So we needed players to come on and kind of keep the ball. And I think once Garner came on, and it was Idrissa Gana game, we just kept the ball for a bit. We just kind of killed the game off. And Palace didn't really trouble us in the second half. I thought first half, as you rightly point out, I think it's the worst first half under Dyche I've seen. Yeah. And that's including when we went down to Chelsea and we were down 4 or 5-0 at half time. But that first half the other day was tremendously poor with everything that was at stake, all the pressure that was on the gaffer, on the manager. But I thought Palace, they had a few decent performances in them. I thought Wharton first half was excellent. I didn't think we were coping well enough with Nketiah and Eze in the 10 in behind the midfield and the defence. Lacroix for them at the back. Yeah. Thought he had a tremendous game. Decore should be making it 3-1, but the lad at centre half, Lacroix, he's as quick as Van der Ven, so obviously got in there, great defending, and kind of just toe-poked the ball away from him. But yeah, really pleasing. It was all about the win the other day. It wasn't about the performance for me. Get the win, build some momentum, build some confidence, and now head into Newcastle side where got a lot of quality, but looks like they'll be missing Alexander Isaac. Massive. And we all know how Anthony Gordon was received at Goodison last season. Didn't have the best of games. I think he felt like he had to do it all by himself. Hopefully the fans can try and get a bit into his head at the weekend too. And then if you can nullify Anthony Gordon for Newcastle, they haven't got that much more threat. Harvey Vaughan's a really good player, But apart from that, they haven't got much goal threat.
Steve, you've had a chance to watch the game back now. You did the post-match reaction over on the Patreon channel. Have you added any more to your views from Saturday?
No, it was a really tough watch first half, and like we spoke about yesterday with Bobble, that the players seemed like they got a bit of a kick up the backside at half time. Obviously, we've seen comments from Ashley Young about Seamus Coleman maybe getting in there, getting stuck into some of the players, and I think they needed it because I'll be honest with you, first half was probably as bad as I've seen it under Sean Dyche. It was more the lack of effort, really, I thought, which I was a bit more worried about, but I think we just got a bit higher up the pitch second half. The midfield got a bit higher. Midfield was just too deep first half. First half, we were like on the edge of our box at times, the midfield, and we second half we pressed a lot better. Jack Harrison, which I mentioned straight after the game, I thought he changed the whole game. I thought, unfortunately for Lindstrom, it was a pretty poor display, and I said it yesterday on the show that me and Bobble done, that as a player it's unacceptable to be throwing your arms up in the air.
Don't like that sort of behaviour.
No, it's not. And Everton fans will call you out, and they did on the day, really, because they weren't happy. And I know we were just speaking before we come on air. Then Jordan Pickford was calling them out very, very heavily on the pitch as well. Like I think there was one point where Tarkowski had to drag him away from having a go at him. We said yesterday it was an important win. You could feel the relief at the final whistle as well. It was like, what wasn't one of them where people were leaving early. Everyone was there right to the end. It was just a sense of relief through the whole ground, really, that we got our 3 points, because the players, you could tell they were a bit nervous with 15 to go. 15, yeah. we sat off Palace quite a lot, but I thought Jared Bradford the last 20 minutes was outstanding. I really did. I thought he was the leader, and he was the leader that we've been waiting for the last couple of weeks. I think even with Tarkowski and Mikalenko and Ashley Young, I felt like he stood up. I was saying to Bobby yesterday that there was a tackle on the halfway line in the second half, which I think just before that, Mateta had tried giving him a bit of a nudge into the advertised hoardings, and he didn't really take to it, Jared. And there was a tackle round the halfway line. He just took man on ball, and I thought after that he was just, first half he struggled a bit. Obviously getting back into the game, not playing for a few weeks. I think him and Tarkowski, it wasn't just Jared, to be fair. But I thought second half, at least last 20, he was outstanding. It was great to have him back as well. I think I was in the fan zone before the start of the game, and the reaction of seeing the team use, and even the fans singing his name during the game as well. So you can see how important he is to the team, how important he is to the fans as well, because let's be honest, he is our bit of class that we've got on our side.
Yeah, for me, I haven't had my say on this game, as I touched on earlier. The first half was diabolical. As I said before, probably the worst half of football under Sean Dyche. I was even texting the Bobble going, "Oh, this is good. If this doesn't turn around, this is going to go one way. And it's only going to get messy very, very quickly." The thing for me, and what I really like to see, is the players going in at half time, the substitutions made. Seamus Coleman does a rally cry, a bit of a jeered up. And the players come out, and that 10-minute spell after the first half, that's not a dressing room that's given up. That is not a dressing room that's phoned it in, by the way. There's been many, quite weird reports online, some made-up quotes about there being unrest in the dressing room. That squad hasn't given up yet. You can kind of tell, can't you, when a squad is down tools or don't really want to get back into it. But they showed a bit of determination, a bit of grit, a bit of moments of madness. Dwight McNeil, we've seen that how many times. We've been pushing on the channel for God knows how many years for him to play in that number 10 role. He is the one that you want behind the striker. If that ball falls to him anywhere between 30 yards out, he can hit the target. He did it for Burnley at Goodison Park a few years ago.
That goal yesterday.
Pretty much the same goal.
Copy,
It is that technique is probably the best technical play we've had since James Rodriguez. Let's get it right. I'm not comparing Dwight McNeil to James. However, very similar, left-footed, great strike. Jack Harrison comes on at half-time. I agree with you, Steve. Really don't like that whatsoever. For those that missed it, Lindstrom was throwing his arms in the air, stropping around, moping around. Body language wasn't good at all. And I don't like to single out players. But what I don't want to see is any Everton player causing this kind of unrest. Jordan Pickford was getting involved. Tarkowski was getting involved. Other players were shouting. Sean Dyche was barking.
So was Ian Woan.
And it's Sean Dyche and Ian Woan from where we were sat was barking, going absolutely ballistic at Lindstrom. So there was no surprise to see that substitution at half-time. And it was nice to see Sean Dyche making a substitution at half-time. You know, Jack Harrison, as Steve said, I thought he changed the game. He eased the pressure on Ashley Young, pinned back Mitchell. Eze was kind of, not as in existence. The second half, Crystal Palace, I think they only created 0.18 XG. Didn't really have a shot on target. We just nullified him completely. We've mentioned Ashley Young. I thought he's been fantastic the past 2 games. People can hammer him and make him the scapegoat. He's 39 years of age. He shouldn't be playing. He's been the most consistent injury-free fullback we've had for 2 years now. Seamus Coleman played 10 games last season. He's injured again now. Mykolenko, and we're going to touch on him next.
His injuries. He does
have his injuries, and I think he's been absolutely shocking this year. What we got out of Mykolenko last season was offensively, we know what he is, meat and potato. He's not going to get you loads of assists, but he was nullifying his winger. He was pinning back his winger last year. He's getting beaten far, far too easy. The crosses are coming in from the left far, far too easy. Ashley Young was stopping the crosses. Mykolenko wasn't. And that was a big, big red flag and a worry for me. Nathan Patterson's been injured. He's on his way back. Will Young then feature? He's 39 years of age. He was brought in to play as a backup left back to Vitaly Mykolenko. And he's finding himself having to play, was it 30 games last year? And he's playing once again out of position. I can't moan. People get on his back. It's not his fault the recruitment's been so poor in that position. We've been banging the drum for right backs, left backs to be signed in the summer. It didn't get done, but a bit of a positive on top of that. I thought Mangala was very good. I thought Mangala was, ticked over well at the position. Starting to get fitter. Loved his passion in the Gladys Street for Dwight McNeil's winner. He just seems like a bit of a cool, calm and collected. The gaffer went with Decore and Mangala to start. No big surprise. I think we called that on the pre-match show. Yeah. And I think it worked well. Decore probably wasn't as lively as he was at Leicester, but they ticked over. The first half, Palace seemed to do that 4v2 like we saw down at Aston Villa, and they kind of got over-swamped, didn't they? But then the substitution of Jack Harrison came in and kind of nullified that, which was nice to see. The substitutions for them players in the second half, as Draper said, came at the right time. 2 important goals. 3 points, and the first time we've come from behind in 3 years. Massive, massive result.
It is. And it's okay to sit here and say Crystal Palace had their moments. They've got some really good players. Eze, Adam Wharton. I think Adam Wharton's a terrific central midfielder. He won't be there long, you wouldn't think, with all due respect to Crystal Palace. And he will hurt teams. He will dominate teams in midfield because he is that good. And Eze is another, quality player. And Mateta's in fine form. He's a real handful. So it's okay to say Crystal Palace had moments. Bearing in mind when you look at our form, the mindset where probably the players are at the moment, the confidence or the lack of confidence, it's okay to say that. What was worrying is what I've previously said, is the structure of the team. At the half-time whistle, Crystal Palace had 18 touches in our box to Everton's 6 in Crystal Palace's box. Now, again, what I'm reiterating is if Crystal Palace were a better outfit or maybe had a bit more confidence or a bit more of a cutting edge, they would have been more than one up, but then it's a completely different game. So there's still a considerable amount of work to be done on the training ground. There is no doubt about that. And I don't actually think the gaffer knows his best team at the moment. I think he knows probably his best 8.
I don't think we could pick the same 11.
And I think the main problem is it's the 2 in central midfield. I don't think he knows out of the 4, whether it's Idrissa Gana Gueye, James Garner, Abdoulaye Doucouré, or Mangala. I don't think he knows which 2 at the moment.
As well.
Timur Obinna has 5. Yeah, and at the moment, they've chopped and changed all season. I know it's early on in the season still, but we've chopped and changed, and we've had many different pairings and many different systems.
Let's touch on that then. What's your 2? What is your 2? We'll go around and ask, who would you want to see play in the middle? Because it's a point that everyone's talking about.
Is this in a Sean Dyche team or in my team?
Right now, for Newcastle at home, what do you want to see?
Sean Dyche team. Well, I think Mangala's got to play.
Yeah.
Simply because he's the only natural 6, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Idrissa Gana Gueye is not a 6. He doesn't want to play in that holding role.
When
he plays for his international team, you watch how he plays. Completely different. He doesn't want to play in that role. And he's not good enough on the ball to play that role. No. Abdoulaye Doucouré, again, probably not good enough on the ball to play in that deep line role. James Garner, he is probably the best footballer out of the 5.
Yeah.
Iroha Bunum, at the moment, I don't know what he is going to be. he's still learning his craft. He's still
He's
developing.
more box to box,
Yeah.
isn't he? I'd say.
Again,
Yeah.
he's not a holding midfielder. And you've always got to have at least one who is just going to screen and protect the back four. So for me at the moment, that one is Mangala. He has to protect. And then you have a choice out of the others. Who do you play? Again, the best footballer out of those lot then is James Garner. He's the best natural footballer. But with all due respect to Sean Dyche's team, they don't play much football in the central midfield, so that then kind of negates that. I think you could probably call on any of them really.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of it's probably going to come down to form. Now at the moment, Decore and Mangala have
4
played
points
two
from
together
6,
and
yeah.
picked up 4 points. So I think by default, you now have to stick with those two until the form either dips or the results now dip. But in my personal preference, my two at the moment going forward, maybe not at the moment, what I'm trying to say is long term, would be Mangala and probably James Garner.
Yeah.
Because James Garner for me is and I want to see another footballer in there. But at the moment, under a Sean Dyche system, he doesn't, with all due respect, he doesn't look for maybe for footballers, he looks more for maybe physicality, energy. So he may go with Mangala and Decore, and I expect him to continue with that.
Paul, well, who would you go for? There's been a lot of shouts for Tim, by the way. Tim Rabunum, he's been pulled out the side. We've got 4 points. I understand the frustration. I think Tim had a really good start to the season. One of the only positives. Defensively, bit suspect. What would your two be?
I think before that, I think touching on Tim, it's just he's still young, he's still learning his stay in the Premier League. You can't expect him to play every single minute of the league. I think, unfortunately for him, when he came on at Leicester, it was a bit of a difficult environment to come into. Just like Harrison wasn't a very good cameo. But he'll get minutes, he'll get plenty of game time because he has shown a lot of promise. He has shown a lot of quality to stay in the sides. I would probably agree with the bubble. I think that for me, my two would be Mangala and James Garner. I think they would complement each other well. I think they will complement each other well. Obviously, we haven't seen none of them yet together. I think Mangala isn't that bad on the ball. I think his pass completion is up there with, I think it's around 85 or 87% for the season. James Garner, as we know, he's the best technical midfielder that we've got in terms of ball carrying, ball retention, ball progression, passing. He's the best one that we've got in that role. I think he is a big set piece taker for Sean Dyche. So yeah, for me, my two in midfield would be Mangala and James Garner too. Although I would expect Decore to play the weekend.
Yeah, you're probably right. Steve, what's your two?
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday, and obviously probably go round the houses a bit with this one. But
Yeah.
James Garner is what a natural six is probably these days in the Premier League. He comes deep for the ball. He wants to try and create. But like Bobble said, the way Everton play, Everton kind of miss out the six. Really, we don't. You never really look at Everton going for that ball through the middle, do you? It's just not something we do. It's usually over.
Long and get the seconds.
That was one of the criticisms Onana had about Sean Dyche's football. That
You're used as a stopper rather than
exactly.
a footballer.
And Mangala is the only really natural six, and that's why he would start. Another issue you've got is that when Decore plays in a Dyche team, Everton don't lose.
That is true.
And that's another issue you've got because he obviously trusts him a lot as well. Let's be honest, since Sean Dyche has come in, he's probably been Sean Dyche's main player. I.e. goals and impacts in games. I think at the weekend, I don't think he was great at the weekend, but I think what he does is a job in there. He'll give you that physicality, the work rate, and he'll also, if you do want to change the game and push him further forward, he'll give you that option as well. So I think for the Newcastle game, personally, I would go Mangala and Idrissa Gana Gueye, only because Idrissa Gana Gueye's pressing, I think, is a lot the most, probably the strongest in the midfield pressing wise. And I think against Newcastle, you're going to need to press the likes of Grimares, Sean Longstaff, and Tonali in the middle because they're all quality players.
Good ball players.
Would you not keep Decore in there for the height? Newcastle are a big team.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I was about to say, I would personally, if it was my choice, I'd have Mangala and Idrissa Gana Gueye. But I think Sean Dyche will stick with the two because his argument will be the two games he plays, we got 4 points. And stuff like that of like records of players in sides do play on managers' minds as well. especially with the pressure that Dyche has been under at the moment as well. So I personally think he'll stick with the same two, and obviously I think what he would have done if Dwight McNeil hadn't been playing so well in that position at the moment, he probably would have went back to Decore in behind the striker and put McNeil on the wing, but that means you lose the creativity of McNeil and Ndiaye then. So it's good for Dyche to have these problems. It is good from a managerial point of view, but I do worry about James Garner in regards to Sean Dyche getting back in this side, because
getting the best out.
The reality is now, for Sean Dyche's point of view, he's just after results. He's not really bothered about the way Everton play. He's not bothered about James Garner. Let's be honest, he's got 9 months left on his deal. His priority is to make sure he walks away from Everton as an Everton manager who's kept Everton in the Premier League. It's not really about the development of James Garner. No offence to James Garner, but it's not. We as fans would like to see him get developed into a better player and into the player that we want to see. But I do worry about him going forward. I do wonder whether he is even just a backup right back now as well, because there's quite a lot of options in that midfield.
There is. Well, the fat five, it is a lot of options.
He's fourth choice currently.
Yeah, he probably is fourth choice. For me, I think Mangala does the basics very well. When he came on against Aston Villa for his little cameo, I was a bit like, oh, he's a bit short of match fitness here. But what I've liked so far is he does the basics very well. Screens the back four, gets the ball, gets rid. Gets the ball, gets rid. Gets the ball, get rid. And I don't mind that when Everton are currently. I don't want to see midfielders trying to beat a man. I think Tim Rabunum is capable of beating a man in the middle. I think he can go past players. I think he's going to be more of a box-to-box midfielder. Sometimes in the first few weeks of all the positives, some of his negatives where when he could have easily passed the ball, he tried to dribble his way out of trouble quite a lot. I think we were getting absolutely crucified in the middle of the first 3 or 4 games, and it was when Tim was playing in the middle of Idrissa Gana Gueye. There was no structure. They were focusing on that, the midfield three of the other clubs we were playing.
Off the ball positionally.
Off the ball defensively is questionable, but that's because he's a kid. He's inexperienced, and that's going to come with time. I think in a few years, we'll be sitting here going, what a player he is. He's got the all-round package. But it does take time. Players develop at different rates. I'm delighted that we've got that one over the line. I think it's a fantastic signing for the future. But right now, I think Idrissa Gana Gueye, I've still got a big soft spot for him. I love his pressing. I love his tackling. I love his work rate. Probably for around that 70, 75-minute mark that's when he starts to tire off. He looks a bit leggy this season. I feel like his age is finally catching up with him. I would probably play Idrissa Gana Gueye and Mangala. They'd be my two. However, as you said, Steve, the win rate with Decore in the team is far superior for when he's not in the team. And if you cannot change a winning formula, and he probably will start Decore and Mangala. Let's not forget Decore last year, Newcastle at home at Goodison Park under the lights.
Deeper, didn't he?
He played deeper where he is now, and he was arguably one of Everton's best players on the night. Scored a goal. Played exceptionally well, and I just feel like he's probably going to stick with them. Newcastle's going to be tough, but moving on from them,
I was going to say, it is crazy that a player with not a hell of a lot of technical ability is so important in one team, isn't it? I just find it mad that it's just how, because you think sometimes he doesn't do loads, does he?
No.
But it's just his influence.
He's athletic.
Maybe his influence in the side, and he seems obviously, I know. He seems a bit of a leader as well at times with a few of the players, and he's quite influential, I think, in the dressing room as well. So it just does make you laugh, though, that we've got all these good technical players, but this guy is probably one of our most important players, and he probably shouldn't be, but he is.
Before we move on, I think what's really important now is we now start to get a settled 11.
Yeah.
Good teams normally, good teams in footballing world, they're normally going well when they can just keep playing a settled 11, maybe one change due to an injury or suspension, but generally speaking, 9 or 10 out of the 11 pick themselves, and you get into a bit of a rhythm. And I think that's what's really, really important now. Everton get into a bit of a rhythm now. In the midfield area, we've had McNeil out on the left. Now he's in the centre, and I think he's doing very well in the centre. 6 games in the league, 3 goals, 2 assists. That's not to be sniffed at. It's a great return. In all comps, it's 8 games and 4 goals. Again, it's a really, really good return. We've had Ndiaye try centre. Now he's gone out onto the wing. We've had Lindstrom, and we've had Harrison give it a go on the flanks. Centrally, we've had Idrissa Gana Gueye, Timo Rabunum. We've had Mangala. We've had Decore. I think now we just need to try and settle a little bit and then let form almost let it take its course.
Yeah.
If someone's going to be pulled out of the team, yes, due to lack of form, nothing, or an injury or suspension, but try and get a base now to build off, and hopefully the win against Crystal Palace now gives Everton a foundation to kickstart our season. 4 points in our last 2 games, that's okay. We all would have taken it. Away at Leicester, home to Palace, 4 points. You would have probably gone, yeah, we'll take that.
I think that was the minimum.
Yeah,
That was the minimum, yeah.
It's a decent return, though. Nevertheless, it's a decent return, and they've done it. Now, obviously, against Newcastle, if we can get something against Newcastle, then get brilliant. Again, they're a good outfit, tough team, physical. You know, they're going to be fighting for European spots. They're a very, very good, well-coached team now under Eddie Howe. So it's a tough game. But again, I just want to see a settled team now and people get into a bit of a rhythm. And I always think teams are at their best when it's all a little bit settled. And not to mention, defensively from set pieces, we're still very, very vulnerable. We're suspect. Again, you know, a recycled set-piece goal, that's what it was. Back post, bang, goal. We need to cut them out. And I'd like to think with a settled back four and a settled screen in front of the back four with your wingers now knowing where they need to be. Again, everyone gets into a bit of a rhythm. That will then, again, you know, kind of irk or we'll get rid of those sort of errors that have been happening recently. But yeah, for me, just before we move on, I just want to see a settled team now.
Yeah, settled team. And on that, obviously, there's people talking about Lindstrom, obviously his attitude, what happened on Saturday. And it's not us crucifying him. I just don't want to see it from any player. He's got a lot to make up for. I think he's going to be a good signing. I've seen signs to say that it suggests he's going to be good. Seems a bit lightweight at the moment. Reminds me of when Mikalenko first joined Everton, first came to the Premier League. Looked a bit like, you know, a bit slim, but he's very, very quick and he gets in behind. For Newcastle then, Bobble, going into that game, stick or twist, Lindstrom or Harrison?
Harrison.
Yeah.
Everton are going to surrender most of the ball. We're not going to have as much of the ball, so you've then got to be a tight unit. You've got to be well structured, well drilled. You've got to track back with your fullbacks. They've got Lewis Hall, who is a very, very capable left back. He likes to overlap. He's fast. He's quite powerful. You know, we need no introduction to the likes of Anthony Gordon. You know, they've got some Harvey Barnes. You've got to be very, very... You've got to respect your opposition sometimes. You've got to say, you know what? You know, we're going to have to surrender the ball, but we're going to have to be very, very tight defensively, well structured, well drilled, and we'll break when we can break, and we'll try and take our chances when we can. Now, that's not me bigging up Newcastle, but they're a better side than us right now. And ultimately, they're a physical team as well, and they're a big team. So for me, it'd be Jack Harrison. And again, I think that's judging on obviously the weekend. Jack Harrison put in a really poor performance down at Leicester. And it's not me or anybody, I don't think any of us have really kind of crucified Jesper Lindstrom, but I think it's okay to call it out. It's not acceptable what he did. If it was Jordan Pickford doing it, I'd be saying the same. It's not acceptable. You don't start waving your hands up. And let's be fair, in a roundabout way, he was spitting his dummy out.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing. And we've all seen it in football. I mean, there was a number of times where Pickford had caught the ball and Everton are coached, it's where they play, to then play a long ball very, very quickly from Pickford, or you hit the flanks or hit Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And a few times Lindstrom could have got up and gone, and instead he was walking out. And as he was walking, James Tarkowski, Sean Dyche, Jordan Pickford, Ian was screaming at him, and I mean bellowing at him.
Yeah.
And that was body language. It was just a lack of application, not willing to put in the hard yards. And again, whether you like Sean Dyche's style of football or not, unfortunately, we are a team where everybody's got to buy into it. And if you don't buy into it, we get found out. Because we're not a great team. So you've just got to buy into the system, buy into the structure, buy into the belief, and roll your sleeves up a little bit. And don't get me wrong, in the final third, Jesper Lindstrom probably a much better technical footballer than Jack Harrison. He is. He's a better footballer in the final third.
Oh, you commented about his set pieces were actually quite good at the weekend.
Lindstrom's corners were excellent, very, very good. Great delivery, great delivery. But ultimately, it'll hurt us defensively at the moment. And he was hurting us in the first half. I'm probably being really, really harsh now. But again, I think you can really scrutinise it. The first goal, Jesper Lindstrom had a chance to get rid of the ball.
Yeah, he did.
He had a chance to clear it. But instead, he was out-fought on the edge of the box. And they then recycled it, whipped it in, bang, bang, goal. And if you re-watch it, it was nothing short of just determination from the Palace player. I can't think the Palace player who won it back now. But it was determination why he got the ball back. And that's all it was. Now, I've heard coaches go, it's weak. It's very weak that you've got to get your body in front and just play it up the line and clear the ball and whack it out for a throw-in. Lindstrom didn't do it. Now, I'm not saying Jack Harrison would always do that, but it compounds it, doesn't it, when then he's waving his arms up in the air, he's not putting in the hard yards, he's moaning, he's spitting his dummy out, he's not listening to instructions on the sideline, which was clear. I sit right above it. He was not listening to instructions. He was switching off.
He's walking, wasn't he?
He was what you've then got a problem. You've then got a problem. And whilst Sean Dyche isn't normally a keen believer of making a substitution at half time, I don't think he had a choice. I think he had to send a message to the team. Not to mention Seamus Coleman walks into the dressing room first and absolutely rollicks everyone. And again, I think they needed that because it was a really, really poor first half. And again, I think if it had sent Jesper Lindstrom out, I think that would have sent the wrong message out as well. So yeah, for me, Jack Harrison starts.
Yeah, moving on then from the players, Paul, I'm going to get your thoughts. I'm going to go around the circle again to see what everyone's thoughts is on Kevin Felwell. There's been a few comments in the YouTube, a few comments online, a few comments on social media asking what our boys' opinions are of the director of football. We can have a whole manager discussion on a whole other episode, to be honest. That could go on for absolute, that could go on for bloody hours, that one. But we're going to focus on the director of football, Kevin Felwell. Been here a few years now, had a good few windows to try and get his spin on things. What are your thoughts on his tenure as a whole, and do you believe that he should be offered a new deal at the end of the year?
Well, I think it's a very complicated topic. I think it's one that we can obviously discuss again for hours and hours and hours. And now with the international break coming up, it could be a good topic to maybe.
Yeah, we'll go through his signings on the
to maybe have like his own show one day. But I'm not fully sold on Kevin Felwell. I've got sympathy for him. I think his talent ID and his talent spot, and I think the players that they spot are really good. I think the idea that the club have got in recruitment wise is really good. I think obviously the players that were targeted, especially this window, were very good. I think they're the players that I'd like us to be targeting, the likes of Philogene, the likes of Nonto, the likes of Minte, the likes of Nuama towards the end of the window. But he's failed to get a winger for numerous windows now. I think I'm still going back to that. I think also we failed to get a fullback, over the line throughout the transfer window. I'm 50-50 on him. For me, if he gets a new deal, if that's what the new owners decide, I'll support it. If the new owners see the football club go a different way, I will also support that. I think that'll be the decision. I don't care if he gets a new deal in terms of if whatever the decision is what the new owner believes in, I'll support it. It's not like if he gets a deal but the new owners are only like kind of transition, and then I'll be a bit surprised by it. But again, I'm not fully sold on him, but I've got sympathy on him because of the basket case of a club that he's been working with for the last few years. How everything has been off the pitch, on the pitch. It's been really, really hard for any of the football staff to work at the football club. So that's why I've got a bit of sympathy. But he has made mistakes.
Yeah. Steve, Kevin Felwell.
Yeah, very similar to what Draper's just said then, really. Hasn't come into the easiest football club, let's be honest with you. Also hasn't got the most supportive owner around him as well, and also CEO. These are some of the things that I think people don't realise sometimes. Like it's like the CEO. The CEO is very important for your director of football. That they're there to support you. They're there to guide you through the whole process of the club. And the reality is he's had an interim one, basically really since he's come into the club, because I think Denise went. I don't think Denise was with him for too long either. Anyway, so and let's be honest, she wasn't the greatest CEO that we've had. That's being nice as well, but I think some of his signings have been good. I think the signing of Onana was good. We got our money back on him. We made good money on him. Also, if you have a look at the obviously Anthony Gordon deal, obviously got good money for Anthony Gordon going out of the club. I think he's done some. I think the questions will always be like your Malpai signing. Yeah, there we go. The director of football will come with three or four players and go, you choose. So the manager's also got to take responsibility for some of the signings as well. So I think it's a tough job, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's been a basket case since for the last 4 years, 5 years,
last 30 years.
30 years. But I mean, since he's been at the club, really, it's been a bit of a basket case. He's on trial like everybody else is at the football club. Let's be honest, they are. Anyone who has a job at the football club now has a job right now, but they might not have a job in 6 months because this ownership, I imagine, are going to be very, very ruthless. I've heard a few comments over the last couple of days on a podcast they done with James Horncastle, and they are ruthless businessmen. And if they think the person's not right for the football club, or they don't think it's right for the business, they will make a decision on him. So I think what I would like to see, though, I'd like to see him given January by the Freaking Group to say, show us what you can do. If there's a fund's going to be available, potentially, or even loans where we are able to actually get down payments on loans even, or transfers going forward, I wouldn't mind saying, here's your chance to prove your worth and show us what you can do with the right tools.
What I will say regarding Kevin Thelwell is, I think with him, it's almost as if there's been a big, massive party. And this is the way it's been explained to me a few times. A huge party. And he's came in the next day and been told, right, you've now got to clear this up.
Yeah.
And you've got no money to clear it up with. You've got nothing to
Got
clear
no
it up
cleaning
with.
products.
You've got nothing, but you've got to clean it up. Yeah. No, I'm not excusing Kevin Thelwell because I think he has made mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair to say that there has been some signings. And ultimately, what are sporting directors, technical directors, what are they judged on? They're judged on their signings, aren't they, really? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's what the outside fan judge them on. Now, there has been some signings that raise eyebrows. There was no doubt about that. You know, with all due respect, the Beto signing and how much that is worth.
Yeah, forgot about
that.
Bit of a shocker, really. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
when you sit back and you weigh it up, regardless of a no down payment and then your drip feed, it doesn't matter. It's still a big, expensive.
Beto was a Kevin signing as well, wasn't
Yes,
it? Tracked him for a while.
exactly. So there has been some mistakes. On the flip side, there's been some great bits of business. I think we can all sit here today and say the Iliman Ndiaye signing looks an absolute steal. It looks a bargain. It looks a cracking bit of business. Getting Jack Harrison on 2 free loans is really, really decent business as well. Regardless of what you think of him as a footballing ability, he's now going on around him. I think it's incredibly difficult. You know, James Vaughan's now involved with the football club. Is the academy where it needs to be?
No.
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I think it needs work. Well, it does need work. But they would turn around and go, we've got a couple of players knocking on the door, the likes of Harrison Armstrong, who are coming through the academy. So it is still doing its, you know, it is still going as according to plan. But I do think it's very, very hard to fully judge Kevin Thelwell, given what has gone on around him. If you've got a settled ownership, do the Freaking Group offer him a new deal? I think it's 50-50. And I think if they did offer him a new deal, I think you give him 2 or 3 years to execute the plan. And then if it goes wrong, he's then got no excuses. But I think if they did get rid of him, I would understand it. Because most owners, when they come into football clubs, they want to put their own stamp on things. They want to put fresh faces into places. They want to take the club into a different direction, start the project, whether it's a 3, 4, 5 year project. Again, I would understand it. But I'm not going to come on here and hammer or rip Kevin Thelwell to shreds, because there wasn't many sporting directors that wanted the job to start off with, given where we were as a football club, and given who you were having to work with. Bearing in mind, his previous our previous technical director or sporting director in Marcel Brands was having to fight off super agents, which was incredibly difficult. Not to mention fight off our late departed chairman. Not to mention we had to fight off Fard Mashiri. Kevin Thelwell hasn't had it as tough as that. But in his early tenure, he was having to fight for things and also push back on things with the likes of Fard Mashiri going rogue. Over recent years, over the last 18 months, that's kind of died down a little bit. And I think we've seen that in our approach to transfer windows. It's been a lot more streamlined. Yes, we went for Jaden Philogene. Yes, we went for Willie Nonto and so on. We didn't get them, but he was targeting the right players. We were going for the right profile of player. And again, we weren't having outside influence from the likes of Fard Mashiri. But again,
Kudus as well. Yeah.
Kudus, another one. Yankuba Minta had that. I've kind of got to that sort of level. He would have been interested in him as well. But whether you offer him a new contract or not, again, I can see both sides, if I'm honest.
Quick one though, for both of you, really. Do you think his job is harder due to who the manager is? Just because we spoke off air about the system he wants to play.
Well, Kevin Thelwell likes a back five.
Yeah.
There's a book out there you can buy on Amazon about the art of a back five, a back three. There's no surprise. He wanted Bielsa when obviously Frank Lampard departed the football club. Bielsa wanted to manage under 23s. Don't know why. I don't know if he wanted on his record of getting relegated in the Premier League. Kevin Thelwell, for me, has done wonders getting rid of players, I think. I think he came into a club that had offered massive mega contracts to bang average players. He was basically told to free up the wage bill. I think he saved about 20% of the wage bill thus far. We've spent the least amount of any football club over the past few seasons. How on earth we're still competing is beyond me, because I thought it'd bite us in the arse. You know, Brighton have spent in a summer what we've spent in 5 or 6 years this summer. And ultimately, we're shopping in Ferrari with a Ford budget. I've used it before, and that's no disrespect to Ford owners, by the way. But if you're going in trying to buy, you know, I use Willie Nonto, for example. Bob said, 25 million, there or thereabouts, £12 million down payments. When Everton go, oh, hold on, can we pay nothing this summer and we'll pay you £5 million next summer? No, we want £12 million up front, please. You just cannot do business like that. No structured football and team or recruitment can get your first choice targets, putting down no down payments. That's why the Beto deal got done. Buy now, pay later.
Chimiti.
Yusuf Chimiti, buy now, pay later. Jacob Bright, Iliman Ndiaye, pretty much the same. Buy now, pay later. The French clubs love that sort of deal because they're guaranteed some sort of income. The Ndiaye signing, what a player he's going to be. I think you could probably argue he's doubled his money already. But he always get the Beto signing, disaster. I watched Beto in Italy. I thought he could do really well. Then obviously when he comes to the club, just doesn't look like he's ready for the Premier League.
He's arguably fourth choice striker.
He is now going to be fourth. Fit. Well, Broja's on his way back. He's probably going to start above Beto. Yusuf Chimiti on his way back from his foot injury. You'd probably say after the pre-season, Chimiti's going to be third choice, and Beto may find himself fourth choice. The Maupay signing, it's an absolute disaster. Let's get it right. You can't just shoehorn Neil Maupay in for a team who predominantly play with, the Everton way, a big number 9, a big solid striker who gets up, wins your headers. Neil Maupay, you could maybe say he plays in and around the striker, but we were playing 4-5-1 under Frank Lampard at the time. And ultimately, Maupay is never a single striker. He always likes to play in a 2, if that's 3-5-2, 4-4-2. How on earth you can play Neil Maupay up front on his own is beyond me. When we targeted Beto that summer, we targeted Broja that summer, which would probably at the time you go, makes sense. But Neil Maupay going from one to the other, not good enough.
No.
We haven't signed a fullback, I don't think, under Kevin Fowler. I think we signed Patterson and Mikalenko just before Kevin Fowler came to the club.
3 days after we sacked Benitez.
Yeah, 3 days after we sacked Benitez. So, I've been screaming out for a fullback cover. I think we are really, really short in that area. Kevin Fowler did an interview with Julia Bold over on the BBC.
Signed Ruben Vinagre, didn't he?
Yes,
signed Ruben Vinagre, yeah. Because he liked him, didn't he, from Wolves? That terrible signing.
Yeah. He played 2 games, something like that. So.
Kevin said on the interview that he thought they had adequate depth in that area. He spoke about Ashley Young, Coleman, Patterson, James Garner as a make-weight right-back. Fair, I get that. But the left-back situation, you've got Mikalenko, Ashley Young, who's playing right-back because he's covering for injuries. Mikalenko goes down.
He mentioned Dwight McNeil as well as cover at left back.
That's square peg round on.
I don't think... You've seen how creative Dwight McNeil's been at the other end of the pitch. You can't have your most creative player play left-back.
It showed against Southampton in the Cup, didn't he?
Yeah. He got he was so far back. It's probably why he didn't able to recycle the ball. So if the Viking group come in, hypothetically speaking, again, Ralph Rangnick, and that's just me putting names out there, David Weir, names like that as a director of football, then ultimately you go, right, that's their direction, that's their plan, 5-10-year deal, because this isn't going to change overnight, by the way.
No.
We're not going to get taken over by the Viking group, and we're not going to have a director of football, new manager maybe next summer, and we're not going to start instantly winning things. I do hope the mentality shifts. I do hope we can look to the future and see there's a real plan here. It's a 5-year plan. We're going to focus on the academy, because that's the thing, Kevin Fowler, the academy, got a few players coming through, and he's done well with the sales. Anthony Gordon, Ellis Sims, whether you agreed with it or not, Tom Cannon, Ishii Samuel-Smith, he's not breaking through at Chelsea at the moment. So they've made good money from the academy on a PSR standpoint.
They have. And do you know what? I know it was a lastminute.com signing in Armando Broja.
They're all Dyson, didn't you?
Yeah. But they actually got a really, really good deal out of that. They backed Chelsea into a corner, big time.
Yeah.
Obviously, his move was stalling down at Ipswich. Everton haven't got to pay him his wages until he starts featuring for the first team. He's back fitness. We knew he was coming in with an injury. We agreed the 30 or 35 million, whatever it was off the top of my head, the option to buy, and that was just to protect Chelsea's asset, because they were a bit concerned that obviously a player was going to be leaving on the cheap. But Everton had backed them right into a corner. Yeah. And you have to exploit that sometimes. Arsenal did it with Chelsea regarding Raheem Sterling. They backed him into a corner. You know you've got a player that wants out. You can't keep him. It is what it is. So again, he does deserve credit for some things, Kevin Thelwell. He does, and Dan Purdy and the recruitment team. They do deserve credit for some things, but there are obviously multiple other things there where you have to raise your eyebrows and think, has that been good enough? For me, I think there's got to be some... You need the freaking group to come in and, as I've said previously, shadow the football club for a couple of months. Take your time. I know Kevin Thelwell and Sean Dyche, I know both their contracts are up at the end of the season, but you've got to get this right. You've got to get this right. You get one shot at this, really. You know, we're heading into a brand new stadium. You get one shot. And we don't want to be back to square one in 2 seasons' time in Bramley Moore thinking we now need to remove people again. You want to have a good... I always think a 5-year project. That's what you want. You want a 5-year plan. And you want the right people who are going to be with you for those 5 years, from the top down to the bottom. Manager, recruitment team, sporting director. That's
all
what you
on
want.
The same
all
page.
on the same page. And if results don't start going well for a bit, you roll with it. You roll with the punches because you have belief in what you are trying to achieve and the project that you are going on. And it's going to be a bit of a journey. And it's not going to change overnight at Everton. We're miles off now. We're miles off. You know, we've stripped all our assets. And let's be fair, if you're being brutally honest, after Jared Branthwaite, there isn't a lot left to sell. Jordan Pickford potentially, but he's nearly 30 now. That's fine for a goalkeeper. Maybe Iliman Ndiaye.
I don't want to talk about selling him just
You
yet.
get my point.
Yeah,
there isn't a lot left to sell and earn a fortune off. Everton have done it now for too long. And
It's 12 players, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll have 12 players on the
exactly.
books.
So we've stripped the club now, and now it takes time to build it back up. Yes, you can make great inroads in one summer. You can make a big impact in one summer if you do it right and your recruitment's bang on. But you've also got to be, unfortunately, and people maybe don't like the word in football because football's about the here and now, patient. You may have to be a little bit patient. Gone are the days where you need to go spend 200-300 million and get yourself from 15th to 9th or 8th or 7th. Do you know what I mean? You now have to be a little bit patient. I would like to see steady progression over the next 3 seasons first. And by that, I mean Everton going from 15th to 11th, 11th to 8th or 9th, and then knocking on the door of the Europa Conference League or the Europa League. Going in deep in one of the cup competitions, get to the FA Cup semis. That would be progression for me. And whether that's with Kevin Thelwell or not, I think you have to just trust what the freaking group are going to come in here and do. They're experienced operators. They absolutely know how to run a football club. They've turned Roma around. I know they've got a lot of turmoil down there at the moment with the sacking of Daniele De Rossi and you know the ultras kicking off over that. But ultimately, they've turned the fortunes around of Roma and they've put them on an even keel because they were in a financial mess. And again, they're extremely powerful businessmen and wealthy businessmen. So for me, it's assess what we've got here, talk to the people that are within the football club, see where they would like to take the football club, see what would Kevin Thelwell's style of football want to be, what would he like to implement into the football club. You've got to remember, when Sean Dyche was appointed, and this is all with due respect to Sean Dyche, that doesn't mean he was Kevin Thelwell's number one target. He was brought in as a firefighter, keep the club into the Premier League. Kevin Thelwell may want a completely different narrative of a manager, completely different face, who would then transform the football club. You just don't know until you sit down and talk to where would you want to take the football club? And I think that the freaking group should absolutely do that. I think they should talk to him, talk to Dan Purdy, talk to the recruitment team, because we have some really good operators in that recruitment team, by the way, really good operators. So for me, just get it right, because you get one shot at this. You get one shot, and if you don't get it right, it costs you millions and millions of pounds, and it can set you back 2 or 3 seasons because you've made errors. And that's what's previously happened under the previous regime of Fad Mashiri. Previous mistakes,
Got it wrong eight times,
and look how far it's put us back.
I was going to say that you could arguably say this was Kevin Thelwell's first summer without the influence of Farhad Mashiri trying to buy players, though, because we had the one, was it last year, with the lad from PSG. Kittier, was it?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I'm trying to do deals there behind the director of football's back.
Yeah.
The reality is, Marcel Brands never wanted Rafael Benitez as manager. He was the director of football. So the reality, this is where I am saying to you, the CEO is so important, whoever it's going to be, because that's who Kevin Thelwell will answer to, not the owner.
Correct.
The owner's there just to sign the checks.
And that's how it should be in a football club. Like Brighton, Tony Bloom, owner.
Exactly.
David Weir, there's your man. It was Dan Ashworth before him. Whatever he says goes. Football operations, it runs for your director of football. And that's why the Brighton model, the recruitment, the manager search, and everything is all data-led.
It's all aligned.
And it literally is. They could sack this new manager tomorrow.
They know who their next manager
and they could have
probably.
somebody already in the pipeline ready to go.
Correct.
They could sell Matoma next summer, and they will already have 2 or 3 players lined up ready to go.
They've already got them ready.
Exactly. They signed Minter, players ready to go straight in, and that's the model that Everton need to. I can't believe I'm saying it, to be honest. I'm trying to copy Brighton's model. It should be. I want the freaking group to make a model similar, but I want it to be an Everton model. I think you said it, Steve.
Agreed.
Make it the Everton model, so other clubs go, look how well Everton are doing there. Yeah. Look how good their ground is. Look what they're doing corporately. Look what events they're holding there. Look how good their academy is. Like in the 2000s, on the late 90s, Everton's academy was regarded as probably one of the best in the country, and they were producing talent after talent after talent. And under the Farhad Moshiri year, I think when David Moyes was here, he was very largely focused on the academy. Loved to see it ran, was very close with the progression of certain players coming through. Lighter blood, youth.
He'd go and watch every game.
His dad was very involved in the academy.
Yeah.
Because my cousin was in the academy then. His dad used to drive all team coaches and that.
Yeah.
His dad drove them to, I think it was to Belgium or to Germany, to an academy tournament. I think they came second. But yeah, even his dad and like everyone that Moyes had kind of confidence with was really, really connected to the academy.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see. Not only from the very top, we want to see change at the owners, the freaking group come in. Your board changes. I feel like I'm repeating myself now. CEO, chairman, whoever needs to come onto the board. And I want the board to challenge the owner. I want the board to challenge the CEO, the board to challenge the chairman. The fan advisory board are listening now, made up for that to have them tune into the show. They do a great job by trying to communicate to the board, trying to portray the fans' views across and trying to get a few answers from them. But, I want the club to be challenging themselves to do better, be accountable, push yourselves out the way. I feel like Everton, not only in their recruitment, I think in a business-minded sense, they're very risk-averse. They always think, what if? You could probably argue Bramley Moore should have been bigger.
Yeah.
I'll argue that till I'm blue in the face. I think it should have been. Yeah. They don't take risk on signings in European markets. It's all, what if it doesn't work? What if? Gamble a little bit. Back the club, back the fans, and back your business-minded ideas, because we will grow. And hypothetically speaking, you get it right at the top and you work it not only on the field, on your first 11, let's try and improve the women's team. Let's try and improve the academy. Let's try and improve Everton as a whole and get the whole good feel factor in. Because when the mentality shifts from the very top, I'm telling you now, it would come down from the very top and everyone will continue to grow and grow.
I think a lot of the risk side of it comes from the new stadium. They're desperate just to get there as a Premier League club. I think a lot of it's probably been kicking the can down the road, really, just to get there. And the kind of things that you're mentioning there about they can't... As bad as it sounds, you can't risk going and getting an 18-year-old Colombian or a South American because they want to stay in the Premier League so much. And I do get that side of it as well. That even though it's terrible from a standards point of view, that it is just to stay in the Premier League right now for Everton, which is not my ambition. It's not my standards, but from the football club's point of view, from a business point of view, that's what they're relying on now, the new stadium, and then hopefully. That's my hope, is when we get there, they start taking more risks, because there's no excuse not to take those risks anymore.
Yeah,
you can't blame the stadium no more. After that, you're in there. That there's nothing else to use an excuse now. So I think that's one of the reasons why we probably haven't seen it, because of the stadium. Because the reality is, let's be honest, none of us want to go to the stadium as a championship club. That's just not an option.
That's right. And there we have it, ladies and gents. Another YouTube Live. We do hope you are enjoying these Monday YouTube Live hour specials. If you don't already, please subscribe and like on the channel. Really do appreciate your support for tuning in at 2 o'clock. If you don't subscribe to the Patreon, give us a go. We've got Alan Stubbs in shortly. He'll be trying to play a few darts with me. And then he'll give his views on the past week and how positive it's actually been since last Monday. In the meantime, have a great week and up the toffees.